All right, welcome to a very special episode of the Effects Loop. This is off. It's not our format. This is totally abnormal, but what is something that's becoming increasingly normal? Ian's here.
Hey, everybody.
You got Scott. Diaz isn't with us because we're just doing this in person. But as we talked about in our last show, I bought a new guitar.
Yes, he did.
Ian also bought a new guitar.
Temporary.
He bought the exact same guitar and then decided, I like Scott's, but no.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but then we decided, we should probably talk about this just because between the two of us, we have 3 John Mayer signature guitars.
Yeah.
All S style. One an actual Fender Strat I've had since 2010, 2011-ish.
Okay.
So I've had this for like 11 years.
Yeah.
So it's an oldie. I've been playing it for a while. You've had the core model. Is it core technically, or is it technically it's a bolt-on series, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bolt-on, but the full tilt American Silver Sky.
And you've had that for 3 years, 4 years?
2.5 now. I think I got it in the summer of 2019. It was before COVID started.
Okay.
Maybe it was 2018. I don't quite remember. It was the first year that the Mock Sand color came out, and I got it before he went on tour. For the record, I love the color, and then he used it.
And we only have unlimited time to talk about this. We can't talk about finishes.
Did you say unlimited?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I intentionally said unlimited.
Was that a joke?
Yes, it was.
Oh, Scott's got jokes. Oh.
So you've got that, and you've had that for ages, and I mean, you've had that as long as I've known you. Yes. I've had the John Mayer Fender for as long as you've known me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the recent one being the Paul Reed Smith came out with the Silver Sky SE got us both really interested.
Oh yeah.
And then like we both texted each other like, "Hey, I just pulled the trigger on one," and you were like, "So did I."
Yeah.
And we bought the same color from Sweetwater.
Yep.
And ours arrived on the same day.
They did.
I opened up mine. You didn't open up yours because you wanted to see how mine felt, and then you kind of went, you know what? It just doesn't fit my thing right now. I decided I liked mine enough to keep it.
Yes.
So that's how we're sitting in my living room right now. We've got all 3 tuned up, ready to go. All with 10s. You have 10s on yours, right?
Yep.
All right. My 2 guitars are set up the way I like mine. Yours is set up the way you like yours.
Yeah, for the most part.
So none of these are out of the box setups at this point.
True.
Which is probably not. I don't know if that's a fair comparison or not. I mean, like it's our guitars how we play them. But we figured we'd throw all 3 together, do a little bit of audio samples, whatnot. So I've got my Quad Cortex sitting on the floor here with my Super Reverb plugin that I made. So Effects Loop podcast on the Neural DSP app. You can actually download this whole preset we're using, the Super Starter.
There we go.
Preset. We might throw an overdrive on or 2, but that. So Ian, you're plugged in, so just give it a quick little, give it a G. We should, and we'll do our best not to talk while we're playing guitar.
Oh, good call.
Because
we're
actually self-monitoring ourselves, so like it'll not sound that great. Let's do that. That lets us know what we have running. So we're here. Ian's got his full-fledged American plugged in.
Oh yeah.
So you've had this now for, we were thinking like 3.5 years
it's like
or
3
whatever.
years. I got to figure out when I got this thing, but I've spent a lot of time with it.
And this is the first time you and I have both been in the same room with both guitars.
Yes.
So actually seeing them side by side going, oh, hey, that's actually somewhere. Or, oh, hey, that's different. We're picking up on some other smaller things now. I mean, we can get nitpicky, but I think big picture, no one's arguing that the John Mayer Fender is a good guitar that's highly desired or whatnot, that it's been an established player for a while.
Seriously.
No one's arguing that the American Silver Sky is a player and people have been after it. Well, people might argue with us, but whatever. The SE comes in now at $850, taxes and all that and whatnot. And we're comparing this with a guitar. I think I bought my Fender for like $1,000, $1,100 used. Like great deal back in the time. I think
Fantastic
these are like
deal.
$4,000 now.
They'd be worth it, let me say. I mean, yeah, I was shocked at how good of a guitar that is. I have a Fender American Pro myself that I love, but it's not that guitar. It's not your Fender John Mayer Strat. Yeah, that's for sure.
I think Silver Skies are what, $2,400 now?
$24 is the sticker. Okay. Yeah, although you might pay $25 for like the. Can't remember if the
pink one, right?
The pink one is $25, and then they had the Nebula and whatever the other iridescent finish was.
Those are a bit Lunar Ice.
Lunar Ice. Yep.
I tried to buy a Lunar Ice at one point.
They look really great in person.
I still like if I were to have one finish on a Silver Sky, the Nebula is probably still my favorite. But also his matte black one he's running around with is gorgeous too.
It is sexy.
Yeah,
that is it. Yeah, I mean, I love the matte Moxan too. I'm a huge fan of like pastel-y kind of colors in my guitars. You've seen all of them, even the ones that I've sold. Yeah. I just love that color palette, and so I jumped on the Moxan as soon as I saw it, and I did confirm it is. I got it the summer of 2019, August of 2019. So that was the first year that color, because the original launch was like, I don't know the official names of all of them, but it was like black, gray, white, and red.
It was all the default Tesla colors.
Yep, exactly. And then they launched 4 new colors the next year. So I picked up a Moxan basically as soon as I could get my hands on one. And then that summer he started touring with the Moxan one, and eventually they did a matte finish Moxan, which is now what is standard in the Moxan. So that's what's sold now, and I'm kind of jealous because the matte looks so good. But that matte black, woo-hoo-hoo.
I think at this point he's just gonna come up with a new color every tour.
Why not?
And that will be like the one he plays or whatever. Yeah, and it add a premium to it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or sell it only on tour.
Sure.
I mean, that would actually be kind of funny if his tour bus pulls up with like 200 PRSs in the back, and you go to the merch table and buy one.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be sick.
Because I know who's it? Gene Simmons does that, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
Oh, I don't even know.
He auctions off the guitar he plays at every show, and like the money goes to charity or whatever.
Oh, that's sweet.
So he always has a new one. Anyway,
one of the things as we're talking about the Silver Sky, one of the cool things about it is it's such a consistent guitar that he could do that.
Yeah, he probably could. So now that the SE is hitting people's hands, I mean, obviously it got announced. There were some really early people that got them like right away.
Yep.
And this is sort of the first tranche of the builder or the built groups kind of hitting people's pockets, and you're seeing, Gear Talk Praise and Worship people posting. Total douchebags. I mean, who would ever do that? I did that.
Yeah. It's got jokes.
Yeah. They're starting to hit, and so it's a viable option now to actually pick one up.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well,
there's used ones that people are
from Sweetwater.
I mean, yeah, they're back ordered. Like if you're buying a new one at like Sweetwater, I think I saw someone saying they're quoting like August right now.
Something like that, yeah.
But like there's people flipping them and selling them now, so like picking one up's a realistic something that could happen. You're trying to adjust your mic?
We'll call it that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are wondering, naturally, one, how much of a John Mayer guitar is it, and does it hold up? I think that's question one. Question two is it a good value? And then I guess the other question is simply, how does it compare to other things in its sort of bracket? And I don't think we're really going to be able to hit that today, just because we don't have those guitars laying around. Like naturally, the Player series from Fender is going to be compared there. G&L's upper tribute models might be compared to it. I don't really know.
Could be.
I mean,
at the end of the day,
Charvel, like San Dimas stuff, actually gets into that price bracket. Schecter has is it Nick Johnson model? Ibanez has the AZs. So there's a lot of S-type guitars sitting around.
There are.
I'll call that the at or just below $1,000 market. I think that's kind of the appropriate price range, like $700 to $1,000. Let's call that a market branch together. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the is it a John Mayer guitar, or do we want to start with, is it any good? My screensaver kicked down.
Let's start with it. Is it any good?
All right, yeah, I think that's a reasonable spot. And also, it's a real short thing. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's actually quite good.
It's very good. It need a little work out of the box. It's something you expect with a guitar of that tier. But the work that it needed is all very doable work, and it wasn't anything that like affected like the essence of the guitar.
Yeah. So we opened it up. I hooked the thing up, and I went looking for any reason to send it back. And I found little issues. Mm-hmm. Like, there was like a tool mark on the fretboard, and there's a little glue from one of the frets. And I think the biggest thing people, like, if you buy one fresh, it comes right out of the box. The thing that's going to tick you off is the matte neck is a little rough. Or mine was a little rough.
Yeah, it had a couple of spots on it that were there was some overspray or something that you could feel. And, you know, our hands are very sensitive and pick that kind of stuff up. So the thing about that, though, is, you know, a couple of rubs with a Scotch-Brite pad, you skipped that step. Your hand wore it down.
I just broke it in with my hand. But yeah, like, the guitar broke in over about a day. Mm-hmm. And within the first hour, it felt different.
Yeah.
Like, I got rid of that rough. Like, Gibson matte necks, because they do mahogany, always kind of have a little grit to them.
Yeah. Well, you can feel the wood grain through the...
Yeah. This wasn't so much wood grain. This was just kind of like the grit of the spray on it or whatever was there. And so, like, I just took my hand and I just sat there and I just, like, rubbed it like I was trying to get a genie to come out of it, and just kind of, I wouldn't say glossed it, but I smoothed it out with just my hand. There were still a few high spots I kind of hit with a fingernail. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just loosened them up and got them down. And so at this point, I would say that guitar is playing really smooth.
And that's really all you did. I mean,
action was really high out of the box.
That's true. You did do a quick action check on it. What else did we do? One trick that I really like to do with any new guitar, and I did it with my Silver Sky, I did it with my CE24 when I got it, I did it with my Fender when I got it. I like to just lightly loosen the screws at the neck joint of a bolt-on guitar while the strings are on it, just enough that the string tension itself can really seat the neck into the neck pocket.
And this thing didn't even strongly
move. This one didn't move. My PRS, both of them did move a little bit. My Fender moved a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't hear... Yeah, it makes a little bit of a pop noise. You can kind of hear, kind of like if a string gets caught in a nut. Very similar. Mm-hmm. And this one didn't... We could tell that it moved because the intonation changed when we were done.
No, it didn't. I have not touched the intonation on that guitar.
Oh, or maybe it was just the tuning.
Well, yeah, we detuned the guitar.
Yeah, either way, that was seated really, really well. That's one thing that I just really like to do, because oftentimes these guitars are assembled before the strings are on them, and string tension is significant, and so it really just, that extra force can really pull the neck in, and, you know, the guitar usually resonates a lot better when you do that. But this, I mean, for an $850 guitar, you just rubbed the neck a little bit and you were good, and you rolled the edges with a screwdriver.
I took a screwdriver to the fretboard edges, just to get the break-in process going. Yeah. Frets are immaculate.
Yeah. Besides, frets are fantastic.
There's a weird pencil mark I still haven't dealt with near the nut. Mm-hmm. That's like still on the guitar. I wonder if it's under the finish.
And we did see there was a little bit of some sort of like a burr in one of the...
Yeah, one of the nut slots had a little plastic still in it, or some dust or something. I haven't swapped the strings on it yet.
No, these are still the factory strings.
So yeah, when since I use string joy balance tension, it will be a different tension on the neck. Mm-hmm. So it will need another setup when I do that, just because the tension's different and intonation will be slightly different.
I mean, other than that, it's a great guitar.
Yeah, I put strap lock buttons on it. Mm-hmm. So I swapped the strap lock buttons. That was as painless as I've ever had on a guitar. Like, the screws were the same size for the Dunlop.
Yeah. We did take I don't remember my Silver Sky coming with plastic on the pickguard. Yours did, just like any
2 layers
Fender.
of plastic, yeah.
And we did have a little bit of difficulty getting one of the
bridge knob is like, I think the pot is a different size.
Yeah,
we haven't measured it. I haven't taken the knob back off.
There's just something about that fit. So, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it a good guitar?
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that John really liked to talk about, John Mayer, in the promotion.
Just John.
Oh.
Casual. Yeah, I call him John. I mean.
Yeah, among friends.
It might be to John Mayer to you guys, but to me, he's just John.
To me, yeah. And I call him. Yeah, never mind. One of the things he talked about a lot is like that the guitars that feel like magic to play always have a little bit of a slink to them. Like there's just something about bending is a little bit easier. And that could just be a Strat thing because I've never had that feeling on a Tele personally. But I know what he's talking about. And one thing that Paul also liked to advertise, if I'm remembering correctly too, is like they wanted every single Silver Sky off of the line to have that same feel. And the bending with 10s is easier on my Silver Sky than it is on my Fender American Pro. It just is. The SE has that same feel.
It's I think part of it is just they're really well polished frets.
It could be that. I don't know how they do it. It's a really good feeling guitar to play. Yeah.
So naturally, let's pivot a little bit. How is this different from the American? Does it feel different?
The neck is definitely different. Other than that, I probably wouldn't notice much of anything while playing. I mean, you can tell the difference in the pots. The pots are a little bit. They're not bad pots on the SE at all. But they're still really smooth.
They're
but
import
they're not
pots
like the speed pots that the American has. You can feel the difference in the switch, the selector switch and stuff, but that's not significant to me. This still feels as good as other guitars that I've got. My Fender is the same way. I've got a Lambertones loaded pickguard on that, and that didn't come with stellar speed pots or anything. It's totally fine. It's completely usable. The neck is the biggest difference for me. Oh, and it doesn't have locking tuners. If that's something you care about, which I...
It still has the plastic buttons, so they look the same.
Yeah, they feel the same, too. They're good feeling tuners.
Yeah.
And like I said in the intro, before the intro, the tuners on this feel better than the tuners on your Fender John Mayer. To me. They're smoother. They're easier to adjust. More control.
That's like one of the few mods I would make on this guitar if I wasn't so precious with like, I gotta keep it original.
Yeah, fair. But the neck, the Silver Sky American neck is really chunky in a really good way. I've got smaller hands, and I love the American neck.
I would actually say the Fender and the American Silver Sky have a similar neck.
Yes.
It's again that it's that chunkier thing. Yeah. For whatever reason, everyone steered away from the American, or the biggest thing everyone brought up was like, oh my gosh, 7.5 inch radius.
Yeah.
I can't play that. I can't do it. Like, oh my goodness. And the Fender was a 9. They went to an 8.5 on this SE.
I like the 8.5.
I would say the funniest thing is once I dialed that guitar in, like I lowered the action, I did some stuff.
Fender should be a 9.5, by the way.
I believe it's just a 9.
Oh, my American Pro I know has a 9.5.
I could be wrong.
Yours might just be a 9 because it's signature too.
Oh. But having said that, once I dialed that in, you picked up the SE and you went, oh, this feels like your CE now.
Yeah, it does. That's the thing. That's what actually you resonated with about this guitar, which is why I thought you should keep yours and why I didn't feel the need to keep mine when I have an American. Is that the neck on the C or on the SE feels more like a PRS neck.
Yes.
Which is
particularly feels like the Bolt-On series PRS neck.
Yeah. When it feels like your Bolt-On series PRS neck too.
Like if
my CE, I think we're convinced it has a slightly different neck than yours does.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think yours is I think yours is not the pattern thin. You have the pattern wide or whatever.
More meat on mine.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel like necessarily like a PRS McCarty. It feels like, yeah, something like that. So locking tuners is probably going to be a popular upgrade. I know they sell the John Mayer locking tuners like $190, $200. It's kind of a stiff price on locking tuners, but I think you might see people do it, or they'll be buying Clusons and taking the keys off of and putting on, they'll do something like that. Outside of that, out of the box, I mean, I think the other thing that the big difference is that they're not the same pickups.
They are not, but they are amazing.
But we haven't even talked about it. Like that was like, everyone's like, oh, am I going to have to replace the pickups on this? Because that's how a lot of people looked at like the Player Series strats.
Well, I'll tell you one thing right now is if there is anybody listening that picks one of these up and replaces the pickups, I want them.
You'll buy them.
I will. I will. They're good. They sound great. They really cut through a mix really well. They're not the same pickups, but they are darn good.
Why don't pick your favorite little bluesy lick right now. Go neck pickup to neck pickup. And let's just quickly compare. Because you got your core right now. I'm going to turn your volume up. So hop onto the SE.
So that was the American.
That's the American.
Just noodling.
Then thing on the SE.
It's good.
I was convinced when the first couple rounds of demos come out, I was like, oh, I can totally hear the difference, because people were like really lining up some good side-by-sides of them.
Yeah.
Just having that 10-second break of you swapping guitars, sitting here, I'm not really picking it up. And I'm sure when I listen back to this, I will hear the subtle differences.
Sure.
But it's just like, it's a similar
They're not
sound.
important. They will be important to somebody, but they're not important to me.
Yeah. Historically, I thought the SE was a little squashier, whereas there was a little more pluck in the full-fledged one. But I'm not noticing that today.
No.
And it also could just be, I mean, again, you've messed with your pickup heights. I've messed with my pickup heights. So there's things like the out of the box versus like what's there. There's going to be variance in there. Mm-hmm. But like for the most part, like I'm pretty sure these two guitars could be dialed in to sound near identical if you
they really could. I mean, you can really just tell. I mean, and we'll get to this. We haven't asked this question yet, but you can tell that the same spirit that's in that American Silver Sky is in this SE. You can tell. You can tell by how it plays. Yes, the neck is definitely a bit different. It doesn't have the same chunky meatiness that that the American has. Like it's a very like vintage style.
The American, I always called it. It's a vintage neck. This feels more modern.
It does. It feels. It's a step in that direction. I think, anybody who thought, oh, I see what they're going for with the American, but it's not really for me.
Pick up the SE.
Pick up the SE. Yeah, I mean, it's still got all of the same pickups in all positions. It doesn't have the dropped B pole piece. Any of these pickups, it's evenly arched just like the American, so it's doing that whole thing really well. And like I said, that there's like that certain slink to bending that all great guitars have. And this thing is $850.
Yeah, you can buy 3 of them.
Right. Get some different colors. You got a backup. I mean, that's. Part of me just wanted one of these just so that I can have a backup for recording.
You were cussing me out.
I was upset.
You were like audibly upset when you started playing that thing because you're like, I'm mad how good this is.
Yeah, I'm upset. And I'm not upset. I'm upset for my wallet because I was really hoping that I could just go, you know what? I don't really need it. I've got an American. But it was a hard decision not to. This is a reminder. I'm not mad that it is so good compared to my American. I had one of these in a box, ready to open up and keep. I wanted to be able to send it back for the sake of my wallet. And it was really hard to send it back.
Yeah. Now, for something completely different, what this guitar is not particularly. The one, we were saying, it's not a vintage Strat.
No.
It does not feel like a vintage Strat. It's got it's got a bit more of a modern neck, even for a Fender.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Fenders necessarily have that much of a modern feel to it.
It's funny to say that when it's got an 8.5-inch radius on it, because people, when one of the things that you think of when somebody says modern is, it's going to be flat.
Flatter radius. I mean, and that is, again, that's slowly become my motif.
Yeah.
I've been playing Titans, the PRS SCE, that thing. I think 9 is that. Actually, that is I think that 8.5. That is the most rounded radius guitar I own.
Yeah.
Out of everything. I mean, because like my Les Paul's like a 12. Yeah, it feels great. It feels like halfway in between too. It's not like my Titan is modern feeling. That is not modern feeling, like full out like shred stick. But
no, anybody who likes a Fender Strat, like we're not talking about Shure Strats here or Ibanez S types. Like anybody who likes a Fender Strat likes a little bit of fight. There's a difference there between that and like an actual like modern speedy shreddy guitar. This has that. So it's not an Ibanez, it's not a Shure.
Yeah.
It plays like a Strat. But it's got a little bit more curve to it, which I have really come to enjoy with my American. It's great for like bluesy double stops and makes muting and stuff easier depending on what you're doing and all that. And it's just really darn comfortable to play. This is a step in that direction from a Fender with great pickups. It does the blend of vintage and modern. It just makes different concessions than the American.
Fair enough. Now, another thing it's not is the original Fender. So why don't you go back to... No, you got the SE still. I think we've established that the CE or the SE and the regular are close enough.
They're close, yeah. We haven't done position 4 yet, but...
Yeah. Let's start with just the neck right now. But some fun lick. Fair enough. I'm going to hand you the American. We'll bump mics and whatnot while we move around here. I do keep forgetting, like, this is heavier.
Yeah, it's got some weight to it.
The American Fender. Both of them are like, yeah, that's a Strat. That's a Strat neck pickup, but like you can tell they're different instruments at this point, right?
Yes.
Did you turn off the volume?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
How much of that I can get away with?
It's a podcast. We can literally...
This is the John Mayer.
This is the... Super reverb right now. Like that's the sound.
Yep.
Let's move to like a position 4, maybe.
We're already there.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. My vantage point is not.
We're here.
going back to the SE here. I forgot to mute you. There we go.
Back to the SE.
Yeah, I mean, just because that's the one we're holding, but like going back to like a Silver Sky kind of.
It is a different guitar. There's a little bit of an adjustment. And then just to be fair, it does it.
So let's pull this back then. If you're trying to get that sound of Continuum, probably like the Silver Sky was never really the guitar for you, was it?
No.
I mean, like the Big Dipper pickups have that mid scoop. It is so defining of the guitar for how it sounds. You're not going to get that out of a Silver Sky necessarily without a lot of adjustments and work and maybe even a different set of pickups. I mean, gosh, the Big Dipper pickups, if you go on like eBay, you can find people who parted these guitars out.
The funny thing is, though, is the Big Dipper, like, everybody's conceded. Yes, the Big Dipper is like the official whatever. That is not. Those aren't the pickups that are in his black one. They just aren't. So it's like everybody, you can chase after this as much as you want to. These are different sounding guitars. Do you like them? Do you not?
Yeah. Or, moreover, I think there's a few people who might be listening to this going, should I have both? You know, and I guess I'm the one saying, yeah, it's okay to have both, since now that I do, it's officially okay. I mean, I was on the fence of like, you were always telling me like, hey, you should get a Silver Sky, you should get a Silver Sky. And I was like, yeah, I already got a Strat.
Well, and that's what's funny about this one is because it's a step closer to your the PRS neck that you already like.
Yeah. And it's like the main guitar that I'm playing at this point is my CE24. Mm-hmm. It fits within that realm and gives me the Stratty thing without like having a long adjustment period.
Yeah. But this brings me to an interesting kind of point that I was hoping to make, which is that, you know, I mean, you want to ask the question, is this a John Mayer guitar? Simply, I don't know how to answer that question. I really simply do not know how to answer that question because, yes, he helped design these pickups. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking for a guitar that plays like a guitar that he would design? I don't know. What should you be looking for in a guitar? I can very feasibly see a world. I mean, this is what we're just talking about with you. I could see somebody intentionally choosing the SE over the American, not for price.
Oh, feel alone. I mean, that's
a different
the thing
guitar.
Here.
It's not the vintage thing. It's a more modern thing, but it still sounds like a Silver Sky and it plays like a PRS.
I mean, I think I'm that category.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't really bond with your fully American one. And like you put it in my hands multiple times. I'm like, I wish I liked this more. I wished I liked it.
Yeah.
The SE felt like it in my hands. I understand it going the other way for you. Mm-hmm. Well, partly because you got 3 years of time on the core model, but
yeah. Well, you know, the core though is very much its own thing. It makes no apologies for what it is. But this is something that is a little bit more familiar. The SE.
Yeah.
Now it's still a budget guitar, and like we said, there were some things that you needed to do out of the box.
But I mean, and those were if you're the person buying $850 guitars, I don't know who this market is for. Like that's the other interesting thing. So historically, in my eyes, and everyone can argue with me over it, whatever. But when I was learning how to play guitar, your first guitar was a Squier, your second guitar was a Mexican Strat, or a Mexican Fender, or an Epiphone Les Paul. Like that was the progression. That was the pecking order. That's what you did at Guitar Center when you were there. that pecking order now is that moved from a $110 guitar to for the Affinity Strat now is like you're looking at probably $300 for Squire now,
something like that.
And
but it's a way better guitar.
Yeah, and so you used to be like $300 to $500 was your second guitar. Now that's moving closer. If these guitars are technically the second guitar,
they really could be. But let's talk about like
I don't know if this is really a true second guitar. This is a way bigger step up to what I would consider someone's like, okay, I stuck with this for 2 years and I've been mowing lawns and I'm going to go buy one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Though. Like with a little bit of work, this could be my main guitar. I could be intentionally choosing this guitar over another one. It was hard to send back. It was hard for me to send this guitar back.
Well,
and I have an American.
We intentionally made sure you never opened it because the minute you opened it, you were going to bond with it.
That saved me.
It's like the blinders on a Raincore. The minute you take them off, it's going to bond with the first person that it sees.
Exactly. I'm the Raincore.
Yeah, that fits.
And the guitar is the person. Yeah.
I'm going to find a Boba Fett action figure and have him ride you around. Spoilers.
Should have said spoilers before, but yeah.
That's not. Look. With all due respect, I can say whatever the hell I want as long as I say with all due respect.
Yeah. Well, with all due respect, fuck you.
So,
with all due respect, I have no respect for you.
So, is it really a second guitar, or this is somebody's like? To me, this feels more closer to. I mean, when I was learning how to play guitar back in my day, an American Standard Strat was like $700. Went up to $1,000. Now they're what, $1,600?
Wow.
This feels like that tier.
Yeah.
Especially once we had the neck broken in.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened really, really quick. But I would say that's going to be the interesting thing. Is a lot of people are going to get these fresh out of boxes. It's going to be rough. If there's one hanging in a store that gets some playing time, the neck's going to start breaking.
Yeah, if you're buying it, I mean, we bought things pre-ordered. If you're buying it through, if you wait a year and you're buying it off the shelf at, CME or Guitar Center or something, and hopefully not Guitar Center. No shade to Guitar Center. Just what I was going to say is from a place that can do a setup for you that you trust.
Our Guitar Center, the one over in Halstead, actually has a tech in-house who will do setups for you.
That's news to me.
That's who it knew used to. Yeah, it's Third Coast Guitar does like a lot of the local Guitar Centers work.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So if you're buying it through a shop that can do a setup for you as part of the purchasing deal or whatever,
which should be really like any shop should really be like that. Like that's actually kind of one of the downsides of buying through Sweetwater. But at the same time, if like the setup's terrible coming out of Sweetwater, you just say, "Hey, this is terrible," and they'll be like, "All right, go to one of these authorized shops. We might flip the bill, or they might negotiate something." So that also was when I bought a full-fledged PRS from them, not a more discounted guitar. So I don't know if that level of service is going to exist somewhere else.
Yeah, it might or might not. Here's this guitar. I mean, if you like John Mayer,
you already want one, and you probably already pre-ordered one.
Yeah, so we don't need to talk to you.
If you're that level of fandom,
if you like John Mayer,
can you like this guitar if you're not a John Mayer fan?
Absolutely,
because it's really just a really good Strat.
It is a really good Strat, and it's if you're familiar at all with a lot of the choices, the intentional choices that they made with the American, as part of the design process for John, this has a lot of those things. It's got the evenly arched pole pieces with the non-dropped B. That's modern. It's got other, modern features that people would like. This one's got the 2-point trem.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that. The 2-point versus the 6-point trem,
versus a 6-point.
I actually noticed this on the American Silver Sky. The trem bolts actually go all the way through the body and stick out in the cavity.
Yeah, there's something going on there. I haven't taken it apart to check out what's going on, but and it's got the standard PRS drop-in arm with like the screw tensioner, so it doesn't screw in like a Fender would. You don't have to worry about the spring or anything like that. You just pop it in. And
yeah, the John Mayer one I don't think even came with an arm. Like I don't have an arm.
Surprise me at all.
I don't have an arm for this guitar.
This one does. The SE does have a back
Does have a backplate, whereas both the Fender and the American Silver Sky don't have even the holes for a backplate.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's got some more of those features, and it's just, other than that, I mean, it's a Silver Sky. It's a Silver Sky with the.
And I mean, we're getting closer to the point now where the Silver Sky is transcending John Mayer. It still has his name on it, but you're seeing other pros rock one now.
Well, it should. I mean,
like, it was, to me, it was one of the stars of the Super Bowl halftime show. Super Time.
Right.
See, I made fun of myself 3 times, so you didn't have to.
We still do.
Yeah. But like that chromed out one got us talking. So, I mean, other artists are playing them. I mean, it's more than just like David Ryan Harris also having one. You're seeing other artists with one. And I think even in their SE, their video release where they had like Ariel Poston come in and do a little lick. And
you see, that's the funny thing. Signature guitars are kind of goofy, right? Because what's interesting, I think, about signature guitars is that it takes an artist for a brand to be able to get away with making changes to a beloved guitar.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's what we see a lot. And, obviously the Silver Sky, when it debuted, was one of the most controversial, most talked about things in the guitar community. Honestly, for the next 2 whole years.
Oh, people are still mad about it.
People are still mad about it. But yeah, once you tie that to an artist, the brand gets away with it. Whereas, like, if Gibson wanted to add, like make changes to Les Paul without it being an artist signature, everyone would go up in arms.
I mean, they were able to put a Floyd Rose on it because of Alex Lifeson. I mean, that's probably not the first Floyd Rose, but that's one of them, Oh, the guy from Rush wants a Floyd Rose on Les Paul? Okay, that will happen. Now we can do it.
So the cool thing about the Silver Sky, which is getting back to your point about it's finally starting to transcend John Mayer. There's nothing inherently John Mayer about a Strat ever. It's just that this is the things that he wanted in a Strat. What kept anybody from doing? Like, anyone could have built this guitar. Well, it's a vintage Strat with modern features.
Just kind of guided by him.
It was guided by him, but yeah, I mean, there's no part about this guitar that goes, oh, this is specifically made for John Mayer. I can only play this if I have John Mayer's hands.
The meaty neck is kind of signature John Mayer, sort of.
That's true, but it's calling back to the vintage necks.
Yeah, but the other funny part is when you actually think about John when he first started picking up electric guitar. I mean, not like the first time, but like publicly, we all knew John Mayer at first, or like when I first got into him was. He was doing songs like No Such Thing and Why Georgia, where he's the acoustic guitar player, songwriter guy.
Yep.
And then slowly we're like, oh, whoa, he's actually really good at guitar. We didn't realize he played guitar. He did all the backing track and stuff like that. When he recorded those albums, we thought it was like some session guy. And then he starts doing some Stevie Ray Vaughan impressions on stage. And like the Any Given Thursday, he did Lenny.
Yep.
And he was playing for a long time a Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat.
Yeah. So
he started on, or like he was going around with another artist's signature guitar for a while before slowly evolving into his own.
And he even talked about the intentionality of only having his name isn't even on the headstock of either of these guitars. It is only on the back plate.
Yeah, I mean the American Fender has it on the back of the headstock.
That's an intentional choice. I don't know about the Fender, but that was an intentional choice that they made. With the Silver Sky, they didn't need to make it about him. It's a good guitar in its own right, and if you vibe with it, you vibe with it. This is all kind of combined, but that's why I could see somebody picking up the SE over the American intentionally, because they just vibe with it differently. It's a different guitar. It plays slightly differently. It still has the essence of a PRS and of a Silver Sky.
Mm-hmm. And is it as bad as, so historically, Epiphone has made great guitars that are great quality and affordable, and people are like, oh, well, it's not a real Gibson. And you can tell from across the room because of the headstock. Do you feel like the SEs are as weighed down by the fact that it's not the full bore one? I mean, you can tell from, like, if you know what to look for me, I can tell right by the nut, because it's a
thicker nut.
It's the more Gibson style nut that PRS does on a lot of their bigger albums.
It's the headstock is the only place that you can actually tell from a distance Sort of like the difference between a Squier and a Fender. You can only tell on the headstock. You can tell by the cover to the truss rod, and you can tell by the big SE on the neck. That is it. Other than that, it's the exact same body shape. They didn't make any concessions on the carbs. It's still just as comfortable to play. There are a few things up close that you can tell, but gosh, I mean, it's a good guitar. I would stand by it. I would own one. I would play with it. I would record with it. I just don't need to spend another $850 right now when I've got a core.
Fair.
But I would put these pickups in my Fender. And
if
that isn't
like
saying
them
something,
that much, yeah. That is saying something. Would you ever, if we pulled the pickguard off and discovered that thing's routed for a humbucker?
Yep.
Would you get an SE over your American Fender?
Over?
Like, would you just sell your... Like, you could sell your American Fender, buy an SE new, and pay for the swap.
No, I'd keep them both, but what I would probably do is do like a HH setup on my Fender.
Okay. So you'd still mod the other one. Okay.
Yeah. Or put some P90s in or something. Something different, because that's easier to do with Fenders. Yeah. People have made replacement pick plates, scratch plates, pick guards, whatever you want to call it.
I actually have yet to put a Fender pickguard over top the Silver Sky yet to see if the holes line up, but
yeah,
I would bet there's something different. Do the holes line up on the American and the SE? The holes line up.
Yeah, it looks like
should be swappable.
I mean, they should be very swappable. It looks identical, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is
so it's
nice.
Not like the Mexican screws, and American Strats.
The screws on the pick plate are bigger on the SE. I'm just noticing that now. There's smaller screws on the Silver Sky.
Well, I bet you they're all metric.
Fair. Very interesting. I don't know. See, this is all stuff that now that they're next to each other, I noticed, but I wouldn't have noticed that before.
None of this stuff is sticking, though. Like, the neck shape and the neck finish are the things that stick with us out of all of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I noticed the most, just because of how much time I've put in on the guitar.
Yeah.
And because, we vibe with different styles of guitars. Neither of us has hesitated to say this is a fantastic sounding guitar. You're getting a really darn good deal. I mean, the fretwork is insane. Like
for an import guitar, that fretwork is on par, if not better, than some American guitars that I pulled out of the box before.
Yeah. So if you've got a Scotch-Brite pad at home,
you don't even need it.
That's just about all you'll need, if anything, to make this a fantastic guitar. From what we've seen.
We don't even know if that was just my guitar or it was all guitars.
Yeah, we don't know.
Like, that's one downside of us not opening yours, is we don't know if that was like just mine or if it was inherent to the line. But because like people might listen to this and be like, what's he talking about with like the roughness on the neck? Mine was fine.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. Maybe, those of you listening who may have picked one of these up, you'll just have to say, I mean, check it out. There's really no reason not to. I think the reason that everybody is so, well, I don't know. I can only speak from the lens of a John Mayer fan, of course. But everybody is trying to, get these comparisons of, like, the Fender at the same price point and the PRS. And it's like, I don't really get it. If you're looking for some drastic difference, you're not going to find it. It's just what you vibe with.
Well, I mean, there's always been foreign-made guitars at the same price points as Fenders that try to outdo them on some feature level.
Sure.
There's always been the market there because, frankly, Fender is a brand name that you pay a premium for.
Yeah.
Even though, like, Fenders are very economically efficiently built guitar models, like, just the designs of them are efficient. There's always going to be a little bit of a premium for the Fender name until Fender is, like, a no-name company, which I don't see happening anytime soon. But
so I just wouldn't concern yourself with any of that. To me, I would just focus on, like, this is a good enough guitar to stand on its own. So I would focus on, do you like how it feels to play it?
And definitely just, I think that's probably where we should wrap up is that just like, at this point, if you've listened to us talk for nearly an hour on Silver Skies and this kind of guitar, you're clearly interested, or you clearly have nothing else to do and you need us for podcasts. Which, thanks for listening. I think the final conclusion is like, if you're at this point, if you're hearing it at this point, you need to go get your hands on one and see if it's for you. And if it's not, it's okay.
Yeah.
But if it is, you got a really fun new option that's on the market at a reasonable price point. It's not impulse buy for a lot of people.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's the other part we got to kind of remember is, I sold that guitar pedal to that kid the other day, and he came over and he picked it up, and he was like, 12 guitars or whatever. He's like, how do you get that? I'm like, dude, I've been playing guitar for 20 years.
Yeah. Right.
Like, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't jump into these guitars overnight. No. It's okay to not be at a point where you're even ready to jump on one of these from a price point.
When I say what I'm saying about everybody's going nuts about trying to find the comparisons and stuff, it's not like respect to anybody doing their research.
Yeah.
This is, this is a big decision. It's not a small one, but I do think though that when it comes to these kinds of things, people just put a lot of energy into something that is basically just like, for me, if I'm watching videos on something, it's
that's
mainly
on the internet, and they're not even like in hand. They're not even guitar stores yet.
It's mainly just what that is telling me. If I'm watching videos, this many videos and stuff about a guitar, is that I already want to check one out, and I just am not able to at this time. So this is the only way that my obsession gets to manifest itself.
That's fair.
So if you're listening to this thinking, oh man, maybe I should check one out, you should. There's your answer.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear what we're going to say about it, but
no, you do. You need to keep listening.
If you want to hear what we have to say about it, it's a damn good guitar that can stand on its own, and it's worth checking it out.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap up with that thought then. Go check one out if you're still listening. It's worth doing. This is not going to be a failure of a guitar.
No.
And I bet you this time next year we'll probably see numbers, and this thing will have outsold. I don't know if it's going to outsell a Player Series Strat.
I don't know if they can keep up with the production level.
It's Court makes everything. It's just
that's fair.
And if we think of it in terms of like finite economics, like if they're making this, they're not making a different guitar. And so if this guitar's selling, that other guitar is not selling.
Yeah.
Hypothetically. I mean, the other reality is there's so many new guitar players on the market that supply has struggled to keep up with demand. Yeah. So I think this thing's going to stay back-ordered for a while, but production is ramped up. I mean, last year there was that Reverb article about the PRS Silver Sky American outsold on Reverb the American Standard, or the American Pro Strat. I don't know if the same thing's going to happen here, because like there a lot of Player Series Strats are sold, and also just simply the distribution at the Player Series level is ridiculous.
Yeah,
the market saturation
it's going to take a while for PRS to catch up, but I think they will.
I think this is going to be a really good selling guitar, though.
Yeah. There's one piece of this too that I think could be worth discussing real quick as we're wrapping up, which is that
this is like a phone call with you where like we say goodbye. I'm like, hey man, I need to go, and then we talk for like another half an hour.
I mean, what do you expect? I've got 3 amazing guitars in front of me.
Yeah,
just thinking,
that's why I'm in control of the volume pedal.
Right, exactly. But I think it's worth asking, because I think that people are going to be asking this question, or thinking to themselves, do we think that the SE is going to threaten the sales of the American?
They're both crazy back ordered, so not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Now, I have been saying for a while, I thought that the Silver Sky at some point is going to wind up being actually a very affordable guitar to pick up. But it hasn't happened yet. Like, demand hasn't died down after 3 years.
Well, but the interesting thing about that, though, too, is they didn't really price it at a price point that was consistent with an artist's signature guitar. The sticker price on the American Silver Sky was the same sticker price that was on my CE24.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the CE24 is a more complicated guitar, but it should be more expensive. But so there is that.
Fair. Okay, fair.
There is that premium,
still,
but yeah.
I mean, you're paying, American PRS prices.
The prices have actually gone up already, but that's because, I think when Doug Cower came on, he talked about how like a lot of his guitars only have about 5 years of life. Mm-hmm. The year they're introduced, they'll sell, and that will be the best selling guitar he has. but he really only has a couple years of life on a lot of models, and that's like why like he couldn't keep up with Titans for a while, and now he doesn't even make the Titan, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see if demand keeps up, but it kept up for a long time, and that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if we're going to turn around and is this going to be the Les Paul that, it has to stay the same as it was in 1958, you know?
Well, in terms of PRS, I think they've made a name for themselves, making new things and changing things, modifying things all the time. I mean, Paul doesn't keep things the same ever.
I mean, Paul Reed Smith started in what, 84?
Yeah. The other thing though about PRS that is really nice is that their intentions are very clear. So while they're making tweaks and changes to all of their models at all times, we know what Paul's goal is in that. He's not doing it to sell more, to go, oh, your previous one is outdated. He's just trying to get better every year. Fender will release, some wacky non-signature guitar at a mid-tier price point that has some like Floyd Rose, whatever, and they're just gonna, they try and.
Yeah, I mean, the funny part is, so Fender realistically probably already has the next 4 years mapped out already.
Right. Paul's just he's just back to the drawing board constantly. He's like an artist in that, like he's like a painter that has never done painting kind of thing, you know? If you can relate to that, I would call him that. That's what it looks like he's doing when he keeps iterating. And
see, I also think that creates a sense of urgency with their models that I have a Tramp Green semi-hollow CE24. You can't buy one anymore.
Yeah.
So like if you see a model you like from them, you got to buy it that year, and that's becoming a more common thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas like in my mind, if I want a Sunburst Telecaster, I have my entire life to buy a Sunburst Telecaster.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they're just going to keep making
Well, it's also
them.
they made a Sunburst Telecaster basically every year between like 1954 and today. So
yeah.
Like
the supply's out there, you can that. Whereas like PRS kind of has this unique thing of like,
yeah,
this is what we're making this year.
Mm-hmm.
Gobble it up or don't.
Yeah, I'm just glad though that this Silver Sky thing does not seem to just be a trend. It looks like it's going to be a staple for them.
Yeah.
Long past John, like we were saying. I mean John Mayer. When I say John, I'm talking about John Mayer.
Who? Can we get an SE version of his Super Eagle?
Dude,
that would be ridiculous. It would still be $2,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's still gonna be $2,000, and everybody's gonna be
because like the SE Hollow Body 2 is like crazy expensive still. But anyway, all right.
No,
we said we were gonna wrap this. We need to wrap this.
I want to see them do an SE version of or whatever this could be an equivalent of in amps. That's what I want to see.
Well, the Sun Zero is a very affordable amp. The Mark Tremonti amp is really affordable. PRS actually has really affordable tube amps.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, it's one of those things I keep being surprised by because like I don't know their amps very well.
I don't
like
either,
an Archon's like $1,000 combo.
Mm.
The Archon's ridiculous.
Mm.
The Sun Zero was sort of their attempt to do a Hot Rod Deluxe.
They just got good things going. Anybody who wants to complain about PRS can take it up with the inside of my butthole.
Well, I also like that plain colors are coming back to the PRS line.
I really like that though. Yeah, I mean, I surprised myself with the green CE24 that I've got because the whole
you don't like flame maple.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean that doesn't really. I can recognize a beautiful guitar when I see one. That doesn't mean that it feels like my guitar.
Yeah. Whereas like I have how many guitars that have exposed wood grain?
Most
about half of them I would say are exposed wood grain. Like even like my Fenders, like it's a Sunburst. I like the exposed wood grain. Yeah. So
I absolutely adore the color that's on this CE on the blue. What is it, stone? I can't remember what it's called.
I want him now that we mention it. I want him to do like a violin burst, flame topped.
Good luck.
Silver Sky with no pick guard on it, and just piss everyone off on the internet.
At that point, do you call it the Silver Sky or do you call it the Fiore?
I call it the Phoenix.
There we
go.
go.
Sorry, Peter Frampton already has that, doesn't he?
This will be the Scott Hamilton signature PRS.
Yeah, it's for if you want to play
it
four
still
chords
has John Mayer's signature on the neck plate.
This is for the discerning church guitar player. Modeling pedals, doing all the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm. It's got a Duesenberg trim system on it.
Well, let's not spoil things, so they're coming up.
I didn't until you said that.
Anyway, with that, Ian, thanks for hanging out.
No problem.
Running through this, bringing your guitar over, and kind of having this discussion. I mean, we've been having this discussion for a while, so it's kind of fun to like finally lay it down.
Yeah, it's nice to have these next to each other too.
Yeah. If you like this format, please join our Facebook group and tell us, and also tell brands that you like the way we kind of just long formed went through this. I mean, I think, unfortunately, we should have done this with video, but I don't have gear.
That's a lie.
I do. I don't like. I could have set up my phone on a tripod or whatever, but like, I also don't know how to video edit, so there's that problem. But
yeah.
I kind of like this kind of long form. It's not 15 minutes. So you get or is it 10 minutes you have to have for the 2 ads on YouTube? Anyway, something like that. But it's kind of fun to kind of really dive into something that like, this is the big gear release of the year so far. So it's worth diving into. We probably should have done something like this with the Quad Cortex when I got it. But like at the same time, this thing's still evolving, and frankly, the Quad Cortex isn't done yet.
Yeah, well, and the Quad Cortex is one of those things that's going to be different for every user. Everybody can talk about the user interface, like, and everybody has.
Yeah.
So.
And again, if you like the tones that we were doing, or like you're like, hey, I want to try the amp setup, and you actually have a Quad Cortex, look up the Effects Loop Podcast. That's my username on the app. I have this. We're using the Super Starter preset. It's already loaded. It's got a bunch of my pedals in it. And this is fully available for you guys to use and play with, so that's there. It's at least one piece of my gear you all get to try out and have some fun with. So all right, with that, you all have a good time. I don't know how to sign things off. This is what Diaz does. Join our Patreon. Go to theeffectsloop.com. You'll find links to like Stringjoy, our affiliate link there, so if you want to buy Stringjoy strings, buy it through us. Your prices don't change, but we get a little bit of a kickback and support from Stringjoy, who continues to support us.
You're nailing this.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Thank you. Thanks for interrupting my flow. And yeah, but I had the Facebook group. I had that. I had our website. I had the Stringjoy thing. Yeah, that's everything.
Bye.
I don't think we have any other sponsors. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
We are strong.
You got another guitar after that too to tune it up, so we should probably take the strap off that.
Oh, we're doing the Fender too?
Yeah, I think we're doing everything.
Oh, everything.
We're doing the tour to John Mayer.
Hell yeah. I mean, heck yeah. Sorry, listeners.
Watch your fucking mouth. I'm not your podcast. My podcast. Definitely getting cut now that I'm like.
Yeah. You just need a nice bleeper.
Dude,
there's this YouTube channel that I watched that it's really hard to explain why I would even watch it. No.
Okay.
And I don't even know where it's from, but he has this sample of this dude saying the F word that sounds like a bird. It's like, fuck! Like that. And it's like, that's what he replaces it with every time.
You ever listen to Tom Segura's thing with his wife, Your Mom's House? They have so many clips that they play.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then there's so Linus Tech Tips, he uses the Go XLR interface, which is like I think it's PreSonus, more like accessible.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. There's a bleep button on it, so we'll cut his mic and put a bleep sound in, and he can just manually do it himself.
Wow.
So he does it on his like podcast and stuff. But like he has to like get in position to do it, so therefore like every time he swears, it's kind of just like.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because it's like What's funny is if he's the one bleeping himself, then he has to have the foresight to be ready to bleep. So it's like, why don't you just not cuss? If you're thinking about it, just don't cuss.
That's how I'm able to not cuss.
Yeah.
We need another guitar stand.
Well, do you have another floor?
I can do the wall. We can move one. We could use the wall one.
Oh, true.
Don't buy the hate. Don't separate. We're strong.
Well, right off the bat, I will say I prefer the tuners on both Silver Skies to your Fender.
Oh yeah, they're not that great sounding tuners. It's also old string.
Yeah, not that great sounding tuners. Is that what you just said? That's what you said.
Well, good thing we're not recording this. Yeah, they're not the best. Like,
we're not.
We are.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I just got it running, so we'll cut a hard intro at some point.
No need for a hard intro. I'm ready. I mean, it's 3 John Mayer guitars. As hard as it gets over here.